stellar land navigation, discipline, intelligence, determination, and skill. These are the elements that requires you to be a world-class sniper. Not that Call of Duty would have you believe that being a world-class sniper is running around trick-shotting and being a general bellend. But when it comes to being a world-class shooter, there are so many more elements that have to be taken on board before even trying to take out the target. Range, wind speed, wind direction, altitude, elevation, and even the rotation of the earth. That's right, flat earthers, it does exist. And the profession of a sniper has been brought into the light over the recent years with movies such as American Sniper coming out, and also the recognition of snipers like Simu Hawa, who holds the world record for the most confirmed kills. But there is a sniper out there who doesn't seem to get as much attention, even though he is considered among the American Special Forces and military to be the godfather of modern sniping. This man had a massive influence on me when I was writing the first book, The Taste Beneath, and you'll be able to see when reading the book that some of his exploits did manage to sneak their way in there, although not to the full scale of what he managed to achieve. Because on paper, when I was reading his biography, Marine Sniper, I couldn't believe what I was saying. I was like, there's no way this happened. There's no way any of this happened, but trust me, it happened. So ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about someone who has had a massive influence on me and someone who I think deserves more recognition because this man is just beyond fiction. Carlos Norman Hathcock II, also known as White Feather. Now if you think I'm going to be doing the rest of the video with these white feathers in my head, you'd be absolutely correct because I'm going to pay homage to this man. Carlos Norman Hathcock II was born on May 20th, 1942 in Little Rock, Arkansas, where he would soon move to the town of Wine to live with his grandmother after his parents split at quite a very young age. He would spend the first 12 years of his life there. Carlos took up hunting at a very young age as a necessity to help provide food for his very poor family. He would go out into the woods with his single-shot .22 caliber rifle and take his dog along and hunt game essentially. At the age of 9, on his own, in the woods, with a gun. America. Growing up and becoming an excellent shot, Carlos always wanted to enlist into the Marine Corps to pretty much honour his dad who fought the Japanese in World War II, and at the age of 17 he joined the Marine Corps. Before deploying to Vietnam, Carlos won various shooting tournaments at Camp Perry and even the prestigious Wimbledon Cup in 1965, which requires you to hit targets with pinpoint precision from over 1,000 yards away. He actually started his deployment in Vietnam as a military policeman, but with the need for more snipers to combat the very unique guerrilla warfare style that was coming up in Vietnam, and with Carlos's shooting record, it became apparent that he was pretty much destined to do this. Captain Edward James Land was pushing for more snipers in the United States Marine Corps to help combat this unique guerrilla warfare style that the Viet Cong were putting on American soldiers. And with Carlos's shooting record and the tournaments that he had won, it became apparent that he was top of the list. Carlos was then inducted into a 6-month sniping school, not just to hone his craft in sniping, but also his ability to camouflage and move around the jungle with stealth. It didn't take long for Carlos to make a name for himself, racking up kill after kill after kill after kill, to the point where the Viet Cong actually placed a $30,000 bounty on his head. Now that might not seem too much, but you have to take into consideration that the highest bounty that had been placed on the Marine sniper before Carlos was $2,000. Carlos was identified by some local villagers and his information was passed on to the Viet Cong, not just by his name, but also by his most distinguishing feature, the white feather he wore in his bush hat, which would become his nickname and the name of nightmares for Viet Cong soldiers. Now I have missed out a few exploits leading up to some of the bits I'm going to talk about, but let's just say, if you can make a communist state place a $30,000 bounty on your head when they're used to paying their people nothing, and they're willing to give you that money, let's just say, yeah, everyone and their nan knew who Carlos Hathcock was. As I've said, I've missed out a few bits here, but Carlos had made such a name for himself. It wasn't just the Viet Cong that knew Carlos's importance, it was his fellow Marines too, and they knew what the impact would be of losing someone like Carlos on your side would have on the rest of the Marine Corps. So, What did they do? Like a bunch of absolute chads, they all decided to wear white feathers to confuse bounty hunters and counter snipers. These bounty hunters and snipers did come, and Carlos just took care of them one by one until one came along that gave him a challenge to the point of where he could have won. I said he was good, but there was an interview with Carlos where he said for himself there's no way there's anyone that damn good. But it very much nearly cost Carlos his life, and he actually earned Carlos's respect after this encounter. The encounter was with a Viet Cong sniper codenamed the Cobra, who was taking pot shots at Carlos's friends and had killed several of them in a way to bait him out to a duel, essentially. Carlos, not liking his soldiers being killed, he didn't like it one damn bit, accepted the challenge. Carlos and his spotter John Roland Burke took to Hill 55 just southwest of Da Nang to take down the Cobra. The hunt was on and the stalking began. At one point during the long distance face-off, Burke tripped over a dead branch, alerting the Cobra to their position. The Cobra took a shot, fortunately only hitting Burke in his canteen. Hathcock and Burke immediately took cover, though the Cobra had just given away his position, so then the stalk began even more, with both sides of the party slowly rotating around each other and exchanging positions. But by this point, the sun was now behind Hathcock, giving away the Cobra's scope with a glint from the sunlight. For anyone who's ever played Warzone or Battlefield 1, you'll know what I'm talking about. Carlos took aim at the glint and went into what he calls his bubble. Whenever he's on a mission, he just goes into a zen-like state. He focused on the glint and pulled the trigger, killing the Cobra. Now this is pretty much the stuff of legend. This has been used in movies as well. But when Hathcock and Burke got up there, they saw that Hathcock had not just killed the Cobra with one shot. He hadn't just headshot him. He had shot directly through the Cobra's scope into his eye. To quote Hathcock, as he said in an interview, the bullet didn't even touch his side. It went straight through. Now, while they were marvelling at this shot, because it was a absolutely just out of this world, 1 in a million Hollywood shot, a realisation came over Carlos as he realised just how close he came to death. Think about it. For you to shoot someone directly through their scope, what must that scope be doing? It must be looking at you. The Cobra had Hathcock in his sights. Carlos was just quicker to the trigger. Now you would have thought after racking up multiple kills and staring death in the face and having a massive bounty put on your head, it might be time to call it quits and lay low, but no, Carlos did the exact opposite. Carlos accepted a solo mission of which he didn't find the details out until after he actually volunteered, of where this was considered pretty much a suicide mission. This is the only mission that Carlos ever removed his white feather for as well, because he pretty much needed to be camouflaged. In fact, not pretty much needed to, he had to, for 4 days and 3 nights. Carlos was dropped off by helicopter 2 miles from where his actual mission would begin. He would have to cover the distance on foot and make it to the edge of enemy controlled territory. Carlos was wearing a ghillie suit. For anyone who doesn't know what that is a suit that snipers wear that is covered in local fauna and essentially made to make you blend into the local surroundings. Once he reached the edge of the enemy territory, he would then begin a crawl for 4 days and 3 nights at the pace of a few inches per minute. He would crawl through enemy controlled territory, and when I say enemy controlled territory, I just don't mean a big bit of land they owned. That it was fully manned, it was fully armed the whole time. He even had patrols nearly step on him. He even had a bamboo viper slither over him as he moved slowly for 4 days and 3 nights with no food or water in the baking hot Vietnam sun. Now all of this is mad enough considering that the machine gun turrets that he passed were manned 24 hours a day and no one spotted him crawling at this slow pace. But the next bit is just mad. Once he reached the next part of his mission, he would then, at a distance of 700 meters, using only the scope on his rifle, aim in towards a Viet Cong camp. His target was a general that had somehow eluded American capture or been killed. Now put yourself in his shoes. You've just done that crawl, you're dehydrated, you're boiling, you're sweaty. You then have to identify someone that you've never seen before in your life and then take them out from 700 meters. Carlos identified the general, he fired one shot and he killed him. Carlos had to get out of there. As much as this was considered a suicide mission, there was an evac point. So whilst all the Viet Cong were up in arms, because obviously no one had any idea where that shot come from, because no one had seen a soldier on their lands, they were looking in trees, they were looking nearby. No one saw the small soldier slowly crawling away to the tree line, and once he got there, he started beating feet towards the evac point and escaped. These are just two of the events from his book that stood out to me so much. And it's just, I've only told you a small fraction of it. There is so much more to go into detail, but I really think that you should read his book, Marine Sniper. Adding to his legacy, he had 93 confirmed kills, which was the record at the time. But it's theorised that he killed anywhere between 200 to 400 enemy soldiers, because to have a confirmed kill, there had to be a spotter and an officer on site in the Vietnam War. Adding to his legacy again, he did also have the longest kill in the world at the time as well, at a distance of 2,500 yards. Not with his sniper rifle, funnily enough, but with a Browning 50 caliber machine gun that he mounted a scope to. Oh, this guy just doesn't play by the fucking rules, man. In September 1969, though, his military career came to a close, and rather abruptly as well, when the vehicle he was travelling in was hit by an anti-tank mine. Carlos, after his career, was awarded the Purple Heart and the Silver Star later on, just for his pure courage and dedication. Now, he's got a lot of kills to his name, so he might have that label in your head as just a bloodthirsty soldier, but it was quite the opposite with Carlos. He only saw killing the enemy as a means to an end. Any enemy life that he took was another American soldier he was saving. In 1975, Carlos was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and unfortunately passed away February the 22nd, 1999. He's buried at Woodlawn Memorial Garden, Norfolk, Virginia. And also in commemoration of Carlos, he also had a variant of the M21 rifle named after him, the M25 White Feather. Now, I've just told you some of all this stuff about him, and he is one of the most badass people I've ever heard about in my life, and he did majorly influence me, especially when writing this. And if you want to know what scenes he inspired, buy it, read it, leave a review. Not many people have heard of Carlos Hathcock, but I thought it was the right thing to do, just to get his name out there a bit more, and also just share someone who's had a massive influence on me and part of my writing journey. This has been the first video in the Beyond Fiction series, where I'll be talking about more incidents or more people who are just out there and really just put fiction just to shame with their exploits. If you did like this, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'll be trying to do weekly videos and taking you a little bit further on this YouTube career, as I'm still sort of figuring this out. But as always, much love, take care, peace. Skyler? Stellar land navigation, discipline, skill, wind speed, wind direction,